Well, hello there, people, and I'm here with another political video. So, the United States has begun airstrikes in Iraq. Unfortunately, ISIS is, they're promoting them as this big threat. They're gonna strike in American cities and shit. You got people saying, "Oh, they're this big threat and shit," when in reality, terrorists kill less Americans than honeybees, deer in the road I've heard kill more. I mean, car crashes. Why don't we declare war on car crashes? Like, they kill hundreds of thousands of people, thousands of Americans each year. But yet you don't see the government doing anything about that, do you? You don't see the government, doing anything about deer. Why don't we do TSA on deer, huh? Why don't we have the department of the department to fight against deer that hit people, since deer kill more Americans than or honeybees. Why don't we get just a whole department against animals that kill people, since animals kill more people than terrorists? I think that would be a logical thing to do for the government. I mean, just this whole big fear mongering. Whenever a terrorist attack happens, it's mainstream news. It's this big event. Like even the Boston Marathon bombing, which is very suspicious to me. That's a video for a different day, but, what, 2, 3 people died in it, like when a mass shooting happens, like, and like 5 or 10 people die, they make a big deal out of it, when probably more people, overall died that day from other shootings than that one combined, So, I mean, ISIS, I think ISIS, too, they're just renaming them, I think it is Al-Qaeda. But I think they're just renaming them to make them sound like a new threat, because we all know Al-Qaeda and the war against Al-Qaeda is just a fucking, everybody knows this. A lot of people, at least, know that, they wanted to get out of Afghanistan. We were done fighting Al-Qaeda. Nobody wanted in that war. We realized that, it's costing a lot of money. And so now, what are they going to say? Oh, we need to go over another war with Al-Qaeda? No, they say, oh, it's ISIS now. I think they're just renaming it to make a new threat. I don't know about that, but... And the reason, think of how much, too. Like, just one airstrike costs. Jesse Ventura was talking about this on his show. Just think about how much one airstrike costs. You got to pay for the whole airplane is probably millions of dollars, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. The gas is probably a lot of money. The bombs are probably a lot. I mean, just think of just one airstrike, and we're doing that. It just boggles my, like, why don't we use that money? Think of how much that airstrike costs, and why don't we just take that money that we used for the airstrike and give it to poor people, or homeless people, or something. Do something productive with it, other than bomb a country, So, and the only reason why we're doing this is because of the military-industrial complex. War is very profitable. Usually they create something, and also the United States funds terrorist groups. I made a whole video on that, how the United States funds, Al-Qaeda. It's mainstream news. I mean, I showed you mainstream news articles where the mainstream news says that United States funds Al-Qaeda. Literally, just says it. And so United States funds the people we're fighting against. It's proven in mainstream news. Even the mainstream news that's fucking in bed with the government is exposing it. And if the mainstream news that's in bed with the government is telling us about the government, telling us that about the government, think of the other things, that we're not hearing from the mainstream news. So we're fighting a terrorist group that we're funding. Even in the 1980s, Hillary Clinton admitted we funded them. You gave them a lot of money and a lot of supplies to fight against the Soviets. So we funded them for fucking 30 years about. Soviets went to war with fucking Afghanistan, and we funded Al-Qaeda to fight the Soviets. So we've been funding these terrorists for 30 years now. Over 30 years, actually. Way over 30 years, more like 35 almost, at least. And You know, again, this war is just most wars, if not all, are for the military industrial complex. I mean, even World War II, which people think is a justified war. I mean, very well, you know, you can make a case for it being justified. But I mean, the Rockefeller family funded the Nazis, so I mean, you have criminal elements involved there, and you know, just every war is pretty much for the military-industrial complex, and people that should be taught. Why isn't that fucking taught in school? Why isn't the military-industrial complex? That is a very important thing. The military-industrial complex. You know, why isn't it taught in school? It's like that's one of the most important things because the military-industrial complex is what fuels all these fucking wars. Because the military-industrial complex needs money, you know. So, and war is very profitable. War creates money. War creates profits. People profit off of war. So that's why we go to so many of these wars. Is because there's people profiting. It doesn't matter that it hurts most of the country. It doesn't matter that it takes our taxpayers' money. You know, it's for the military-industrial complex and these big corporations like Halliburton, Dick Cheney's company. And also, Dwight Eisenhower warned us of the powers of the military-industrial complex in his farewell address. He said, you know, the military-industrial complex could be bad. So, I mean, all these wars are just for the military-industrial complex. And we need to get out of them. We need to get somebody in the White House that is not going to go to these wars. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen because we all know the global elite control who is president pretty much. I mean, even Barack Obama went to the Bilderberg meeting in 2008 before he was president. Coincidence? I think not. You know? So, and I see Americans now becoming more anti-war, you know, just opposing these wars. And that's good. You know, these wars are just fucking useless. I mean, I have a feeling though, like I could just feel it. They're gonna stage something. I'm predicting it here. Something's gonna be staged. You know, something big too. It's gonna be some terrorist attack or something that's gonna be staged because we're overdue. The last big one was probably Boston Marathon. That was well over a year ago. We're overdue for another big one. It's gonna happen soon. And you know, I think they're gonna stage something. Something's gonna go down. You know, they did all those fucking. They had all those little shootings. You know, when they do one of those little shootings, you know, where like 5 people get killed. You know, it might be real. It could very well be real. But then they put it on TV. They advertise it. They make it into a big fucking deal. So more people follow, and so then it's actually real. That's what they do. And you know, and also the James Foley beheading video, very suspicious to me. You know, very questionable to me, because they didn't show any blood. There was no blood. He was cutting him for. It had to be a few seconds. He cut him like I think they said 6 times back and forth or something like that. No blood. They didn't even. If you figure ISIS are supposed to be this very terrible, you know, terrorist group, very brutal. Why wouldn't they show that? You know, why would they censor that? And then they show the still photo of his head on his on you know his body, or it was all bloody and shit, which could very well be faked. And then you get like the British police coming out, or some form of the British government, or some people in there saying it could be a terrorist activity to even watch the video. Like, holy shit, what kind of world do we live in where it could be a terrorist act to even view the video of James Foley getting beheaded? That is the stupidest thing I've heard. But anyway, you know, it's been admitted in Operation Northwoods. Things have been, you know, planned to be staged to get us into war. I mean, it's mainline news, mainstream news, whatever, that we've lied so many times to go to war, like Gulf of Tonkin, WMDs in Iraq, the sinking of the Maine in 1898 to get us into war with Spain, the sinking of the Lusitania. I mean, that's all proven to be lies to get us into wars. And I just feel it. I feel something big is going to happen. I'm predicting, you know, and possibly bigger than 9/11 too. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's just in my gut. I feel like it's been building up, and I've been thinking they're gonna stage something. You know, it's been a while since any big events happened. They're gonna stage something to get us into a war, to take our civil liberties, whatever. It's I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I have a feeling it's gonna be decently big. Maybe not as big as 9/11 at first, probably not, but you know, maybe in the future. Like he even had, I believe it was Dick Cheney who said, I think another 9/11 is gonna happen, and we all pretty much know 9/11 was staged. You know, pretty much an inside job. I'm going to be making a 9/11 investigation video throughout the whole month of September to prove that, you know, it was an inside job. But, I'm just investigating. It's an investigation, but pretty much it's to prove that the government was behind it and lied about it. But I believe it was Dick Cheney who said there's going to be something bigger than 9/11. There could possibly be something bigger than 9/11. And yeah, you know, I think it's very possible too. And Dick Cheney knows 9/11 was staged. I mean, he was pretty much behind the whole thing probably. So he probably knows. So yeah, I mean, I just feel it. There's going to be some staged event. I mean, almost every one of these terrorist events, these fucking mass shootings, you know, there's a government entity behind them, and even the New York Times admits they made an article titled "FBI hatches terrorist plots." So I mean, it's pretty much admitted. You know, the government stages shit, lies about shit to get us into wars. So I feel something big's gonna happen. I don't know what it is, but when it happens, we gotta investigate it, question our government, and not go to war. The last thing we need is another fucking war. We're trillions of dollars in debt. We got poor people all over the fucking, you know, America, you know, who are struggling right now. The last thing we need to is take money and fund another fucking war when we've got people here struggling to make a living and get by. So there you go, people. There's my thoughts in the Iraq. There's this possible new fucking war with ISIS, which will probably turn into another 10-year war, or 15-year war, maybe. You know, turn into this another long war that costs a ton of money and leads to our liberties being taken away. So there you go, people.